The House of Shadows, a tale of deceit, dark arts, and divine redemption. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, a sinister web of deceit and dark magic was unraveling. At the center of it all was a house seemingly ordinary home on Maple Street that had become the stage for a chilling tale of betrayal, manipulation, and spiritual warfare. This is the story of how a group of individuals, driven by greed and malice, nearly destroyed themselves and others, and how divine intervention exposed their lies and offered a path to redemption. The cast of characters: Pablo Martinez, a smooth-talking real estate agent with a penchant for cutting corners; Amaya Johnson, a charismatic socialite with a hidden agenda and a taste for the occult; Russell Thompson, a struggling musician who fell in with the wrong crowd; Tanya Reynolds, a former nurse turned spiritual healer with a dark secret; Caden Lee, a tech-savvy hacker who dabbled in dark web dealings; Lillian "Lily" Carter, a homemaker who became entangled in the group's schemes; Emma Collins, a department store manager whose life was about to take a dark turn; Renee and June, the duo involved in selling illicit videos online; Aquarius Aria Bennett, a terroristic spellcaster with a history of arson and poisoning; Tian Diamond, two women overseas orchestrating binding spells on unsuspecting victims. The scheme unfolds. It all began when Pablo Martinez, a real estate agent with a shady reputation, decided to rent out a house on Maple Street. The problem: the house didn't belong to him. It was owned by a quiet, unassuming woman named Margaret Hayes, who had inherited the property from her late grandmother. Pablo, desperate for cash, forged documents and rented the house to Russell Thompson, a down-on-his-luck musician looking for a fresh start. But Pablo wasn't working alone. He was part of a larger group that included Amaya Johnson, a socialite with a fascination for the occult, and Tanya Reynolds, a former nurse who had turned to dark spiritual practices. Together, they hatched a plan to use the house as a hub for their illicit activities. Amaya, who had connections to Bohemian Grove and the Illuminati, brought in Caden Lee, a hacker who could cover their tracks. Tanya, meanwhile, used her knowledge of binding spells and dark magic. The descent into madness. As the group's activities escalated, so did their paranoia. Lillian Carter, a homemaker who had been drawn into their circle, began to notice strange behavior among to manipulate those who crossed their path. The group's activities ranged from organ trafficking to selling illicit videos online, with Renee and June handling the latter. The members: Emma Collins, a department store manager who had rented a car in someone else's name, started receiving threatening messages. Aria Bennett, the terroristic spellcaster, became increasingly unhinged, setting fires and poisoning those who opposed her. The breaking point came when Tian Diamond, two women overseas, began casting binding spells on the group's enemies. The spells backfired, causing the members to experience hallucinations. Amaya, who had connections to Bohemian Grove and the Illuminati, brought in Caden Lee, a hacker who could cover their tracks. Tanya, meanwhile, used her knowledge of binding spells and dark magic to manipulate those who crossed their path. The group's activities ranged from organ trafficking to selling illicit videos online, with Renee and June handling the latter. The descent into madness. As the group's activities escalated, so did their paranoia. Lillian Carter, a homemaker who had been drawn into their circle, began to notice strange behavior among the members. Emma Collins, a department store manager who had rented a car in someone else's name, started receiving threatening messages. Aria Bennett, the terroristic spellcaster, became increasingly unhinged, setting fires and poisoning those who opposed her. The breaking point came when Tian Diamond, two women overseas, began casting binding spells on the group's enemies. The spells backfired, causing the members to experience hallucinations, paranoia, and, in some cases, complete mental breakdowns. Lillian's stepdad and husband were among the first to succumb, their minds unraveling from the dark energy they had unleashed. The exposure. The group's downfall began when Margaret Hayes, the rightful owner of the house on Maple Street, discovered the fraud. She contacted the authorities, who launched an investigation. The FBI, already monitoring the group's connections to Bohemian Grove and the Church of Scientology, moved in swiftly. As the investigation unfolded, the group's dark secrets were exposed. Pablo was arrested for fraud, Amaya for her involvement in organ trafficking, and Tanya for her role in the spiritual manipulation. Russell and Kate in turn states evidence, revealing the full extent of the group's activities. The path to redemption. For those caught in the group's web, the road to healing was long and arduous. Margaret Hayes reclaimed her house and turned it into a sanctuary for victims of spiritual abuse. Emma Collins sought therapy and began rebuilding her life, while Lillian Carter found solace in her faith. The story of the house on Maple Street serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of greed, manipulation, and dark magic. It also highlights the importance of discernment, self-love, and divine protection. A call to action. If this story resonates with you, it's time to take a step back and evaluate your own life. Are there toxic relationships or dark influences holding you back? Are you engaging in behaviors that harm yourself or others? The path to healing begins with repentance and self-reflection. Seek divine guidance, surround yourself with positive energy, and break free from the chains of deceit and manipulation. Remember, where attention goes, energy flows. Choose to focus on light, love, and truth.